Yeah.
How's it work for you guys?
And then I want to hear, I love this. And then I want to hear Ken's version of this too. So very early on, and maybe some people who listen will recognize this. So at one point, Ken and I got together and it was pretty clear that we were now officially in a relationship, right? We were like together, we were, so the dog got the car, like when a dog chases a car, the dog got the car. And then now what?
What does the dog do with the car?
Now what does the dog do with the car? And the thing is that I knew at a pretty early point that this relationship, I'm 53 years old. I'm not I'm not 20. I'm not, in my teens. I had been inside of relationships that were not great. I have enough experience to know that this was one of those relationships that if I screwed this one up, this wasn't going to come around, soon. And so I knew the value of it. But that didn't mean that the stuff that came up in me was going to just like magically go away. And so I got it. And then all of a sudden, because I now had the car, you know what I mean? I was chasing the car and I got the car, I started to have the things rear its head, right? The part of me that was like contemptuous. Because what happens with people with adaptations is you get it, you think they're your savior. This is going to, on some level, save you from what really happens inside is there's a existential chasm that lives inside of us. I don't know. I know this process, but for those who don't, right? Like I don't have a self. I personally know I don't have a self at times. This is going to be like a completely weird and meta and sort of fucked up. But for those of us who don't, like I don't have a self. I don't know that I don't have a self. And what happens is that when we get the relationship, it doesn't fix that fundamental issue. We think it will. But then what happens is that the relationship will bump up against something and I'll start to get anxious. I'll start to get nervous, like the feelings that are inside of me that are like deeply uncomfortable will start to come up. And I won't know, I speak I in terms of like the bigger picture, like I won't know. All I know is that it's now you that's bringing that up.
Mm-hmm.
What's like, I used to have all these great feelings and now I don't have these great feelings. Now I just have shit feelings, the feelings I never wanted to feel. And so I'll think it's you. And when I think it's you, all of the stuff will start to come up. My usual suspects are contempt and disdain. I'm better than you are. Who do you, it's like that kind of thing. Like sort of like discarding, like the discarding portion of the fun time that this adaptation can sometimes have. So how did I manage that personally? I came up with an agreement with him very early on that, listen, I need to tell you these things so that they're not the truth. I need to tell you how I'm feeling so that it doesn't like germinate into a cancer that then becomes a tumor that turns into something that destroys the relationship. I have to tell on myself ongoing, but not from a point of view. Like there's a difference between me saying with contempt and disdain, mm-hmm. I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing with. Like there's a difference between saying that and saying, okay, I have some contempt coming up and some mm-hmm. disdain coming up. And it's telling me that probably a good idea right now is to have sex with everybody else and cheat on you and lie to you. It's telling me that that's a good idea. I mean, I think that was like our first conversation where I was like introduced, like this thing is coming up and it's sort of like, I can't even see you. And I'm not proud of that, but that's the thing that's coming up. And I don't want to do any of that stuff, but I need to tell you, I like need to tell on myself. Mm-hmm. So because Ken is Ken, right? He can actually like solidly be in his own skin. Well, you tell people how you managed when I started to like present all of the colors of my, rainbow colors of my world, you know?
Yeah. Well, so I'll say on my side, first of all, when your partner, your life partner, your love, your person is feeling those feelings about you, you better have a solid enough self. Like I had to be solid enough and have my own self-source self-esteem to not be contingent on that. That was the first thing. Like I had to be someone who could receive her being that way and make space for her to actually speak from that voice without being destabilized or knocked off from it. Like I had to be solid enough to give her space to actually
Yeah.
step into that and speak from that place. And then it was super helpful that she started to I always felt like there was two people that I could relate with. There was the person who was telling me what was going on so I wasn't in mystery. And then there was the person who was coming up, who instead of either her or me saying that person is toxic, that person has to go away, we actually made space for it to come up and speak. There was something else I was going to say about it. There were times when there were certain behaviors that I would notice that she would do. So, for example, we like to joke, we like to tease each other, and it almost always feels really good. But there's a certain kind of teasing that actually feels like there's a kind of a subtle meanness about it. And at the same time, she'll start to ask me to do things for her. Usually I love, like if she asks for something, I love to be of service. But there are ways in when these things that we do all the time didn't feel good. She trained me to recognize that was a signal that something was up. So she trained me to say to her, okay, stop. What's going on? Why are these things not feeling good? So she enlisted me to be of assistance here. Do you know what I'm saying? And the other thing is that she would prioritize the relationship. Like there was always 51% that she wasn't gonna harm. There was a 51% of the part of her that is not gonna harm the relationship. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I want to say something to that. I value, I've said this in other conversations in another podcast, like I am a motherfucker around holding on to my high regard for him because of what it is that I have, like all my, divergent neurological pathways. I'm like highly like a pit bull with a bone, like going to make sure that my regard for him stays high. And sometimes what that looks like is me telling him the truth when I don't like him, but not in a way where I punish him. Not so another thing is that all of the different parts of me are see, before I got involved with Ken, I was like, if I made some agreement with myself that all parts of me, I hadn't been allowed to be all of me when I was a kid. Lots of parts of me, I wasn't allowed to be even myself. So I was punished for all kinds of stuff. I was tortured. I was like all that kind of thing. And so at some point in my own recovery, I was like, I'm going to make sure that all parts of me are welcome and get to come home. And so no matter what comes up inside of me, I figure out how to make it right and how to like bring it back home. And so in the relationship, I had to figure out how to be like, so our relationship has to look like that as well. So all parts of me get to come here and get to be here and get to like have a home, even if it's not necessarily pleasant.
Yeah.
There are times when it's been, Ken and I have talked about this, where there are times like, it's funny, he likes all the parts of me, but there was this one part of me that was sort of more of my schizoid personality disorder, which is just sort of like, oh my gosh, I can't even, when I'm more schizoid, I literally can't even find where I am on the planet. Do you know what I mean? I've gotten way better, way better. Where I could actually be here and be like, oh, I'm a little bit dissociated. I could talk through it. But there were times when he and I first started seeing each other where I like it was excruciating to be with another human being while that was like happening. I was just blown out and sort of like a person out in space. And I would tell me if correct me if I'm wrong, but Ken did not like that part of my personality as much. He did not like that character as much as the other personalities or as the other adaptations. And at one point I was like, you actually need to love this part, because if you don't love this part, I actually can't be here. You have to figure out how to like actually let this part be here, because I can't. And he had to think about that for a hot second and be like, I'm not sure if I can. All right, well, then that's something. I can't.
Yeah, I had to learn.
Yeah.
I had to grow into it. Like there's been a lot of growth here for me in terms of like most people have one thing that if they have that thing, they feel stable. Like it could be as long as we are in physical contact with each other, as long as we're touching, I feel stable enough to have any conversation. Or it could be as long as I feel your approval, like whatever the thing is that the person needs, right? So mine is once I understand, I'm good. I can pretty much go with anything. If I'm in mystery, I'm lost. When I'm in mystery and not understanding what's going on, it's difficult for me to function under those circumstances. So I'm blessed with having someone who actually helps me understand. So that's my first Achilles heel. My other Achilles heel is even the hint or the accusation that the relationship is on the line. Like if when she says, this is something that if it doesn't get resolved, I'm out of here. Or if there's been a couple of times where she says,
this is a deal breaker.
This is a deal breaker. This is a deal breaker. And that is happens for me personally to be something that's deeply destabilizing. And that is an emergency situation. Everything stops for me. And I say, that languaging will put me into a state where everything has to stop until this gets resolved, because I can't, I'm not the kind of person who you can get into an argument. Like we can get into a heated argument, but I'm not the kind of person who can get into a heated argument and one person say, that's it, you fucking asshole, I'm out of here. And then wake up the next morning and be fine. Like I will take that one thing that was said and run with it and be freaked out. So one of the things I had to ask of her is not to threaten the relationship, and so now there are times, but because we had that conversation, now there are times when she says, I've been having thoughts about why are we even together? Like I look at you and I feel nothing. And I feel like I'm just gonna go. If you weren't here, I wouldn't feel much. And I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going somewhere. Now she has the freedom that she can say something like that, and I have a context to understand this is a place that she's at right now.
Yeah.
I don't discount it. I don't say, oh, blah, blah, blah. I give space for it, because what I've noticed is she never doesn't like me when she's feeling good about herself. When she's in good shape and feeling good about herself, she loves me. She's happy in the relationship. Like there's all those things are there. So I now take that as I have a context to understand where she's at within herself when she's feeling those feelings about me. And not I don't discount them, but I don't take them personally, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it also helps, like, boy, it sounds, it just is what it is. I also, I can't stress this enough. And correct me if I'm off about this, Ken. When I do share the places inside me that are like recently I've been going through a fairly large identity shift, which is where some of these conversations have been taking place. I recently have gone through something with my family where I like have finally like genuinely sort of organically been like, this doesn't work. And I've been putting down boundaries in a way that have not been dramatic. It's just simply like, sort of like the last bit. And when I did that last bit, a large identity thing started to shake up. And it's been universal in my life, meaning that it's touched every single area in my life. When I've spoken to him about it, it's inside the context of, and I really actually want to hear what your thoughts are about this. The connection piece of like, I'm committed to this person, regardless of what it looks like. I'm committed to this person. That doesn't change. Like there's a way in which I used to do relationship where that wasn't always there, which produces a lot of insecurity, produces a lot of like instability. But because the context is I'm here, the content can go all over the map. But because the context is I'm here no matter what, it doesn't destabilize the relationship. I'm no matter what comes up in me, I'm at least 51% invested no matter what. It can go up to 90, 100, or like 75 or so, but I never let it, I'm like, no, I'm here. Like, I'm like majority is I'm married to this man 51% and I'm here no matter what. Regardless of what the relationship ends up looking like or whatever, but like this man is my man. Which in the past when I've been like, romance, but the context was just like, I'm out of here whenever anything fucking, or vice versa when people would do that to me. That is a very insecurity making, destabilizing thing. So I can have those kinds of conversations with him where I'm like, today I feel where I'm just like, what am I doing? If the context of like, if everything has changed and my identity is this, then what the hell are we even doing? Like, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing with my life. Why am I even here? Like, what the hell is happening? The relationship can hold that kind of content.
Yeah.
Because of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
I feel like you're thinking, it's like, I'm curious about what you've been thinking about.
Me or Ken?
Yeah, you.
Well, I'm hearing, I was actually going to ask a question to Ken, and then you went and answered it before I could even get it out of my mouth, that I'm hearing a few things. One, that the commitment that both of you, the commitment is equal. Both of you are in. The stability is there, so you can play within that arena. And then not only, Anna, are you giving a map for, okay, here's what you're getting, but Ken is doing the same thing. And what I was going to ask to Ken is like, in relationship to Anna as human being and the various personality adaptations that come out, what have you, Ken, discovered about your own personality adaptations? Because these things tend to come in pairs, like the alcoholic and the codependent always are like, they're like the pairing, or like, I don't know what the term is, like the complementary to the narcissist.
It's because I'm more, I don't know, I've definitely been narcissistic, but I'm more schizoid, border. I've got all three. I don't know. Can you answer the question, and then I have my thoughts.
But you know what I'm getting at? Like there's the things that arise that allow that these there's the unexalted version where you're just, oh great, I've reestablished my family patterns and now I'm in relationship with my grandmother all over again, and then there's the exalted version of like, here we can turn and look at these particular things that are co-arising in us. And so I'm curious more about what Ken's what yours are.
Yeah, I can speak to this. So when I fall into the trap, and when, you know, her adaptations lock in with my adaptations, when I go there, what it looks like is I believe that she's broken, and I happily gladly step into heroism.
Totally.
And then
Yeah.
in the wake of that, she gets angry because I have bought into
Right. You fall for it.
something about her that's not true.
Right.
And so I definitely that has happened a couple of times.
Yeah.
Here and there, I suppose that
Just
might
a
have come
couple
up.
of times. I also think that that's great. I also think that you know, his personality is more solid, gentle, steady. It's funny, gentle but firm, strong, and it sort of I'm the one who's like, my borderline tends to be the more social one, where it's like, you know, like I'm lively and very passionate and, you know, awake and alive. And I feel like the borderline to, if there's any kind of personality adaptation over there, it would be more like a very mild schizoid, and schizoids tend to be very attracted to the borderlines because it's a marriage made in heaven, so to speak. Do you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those are my thoughts
No,
about that.
and this feels so key to this conversation of you know, Ken, you said something about a lot of these conversations that are in this topic and in this vein are very dry because or cut and dry, where it's like, oh, okay, see this personality disorder run in the opposite direction, you know. And Anna, it's like, I'm so glad that you made the distinction of, yeah, if you see that and that person is doing zero work and has no program and has no therapist and it doesn't have the observer online to witness themselves in that state, you're really shit out of luck, you know. And what I'm hearing is that there's both an observer and a willingness and awareness and deep work on both sides of the, like, oh, there's that character taking over again, and oh, there's that rescuer taking over, you know. And that it's that kind of that allows the solidity to take place so you can do the dance. Does that sound right?
Yes, and we have a listen. So all of this sounds like it's like very hard work. We you know, we approach, and I don't know if this was something that he did before me, but I have tended towards, what else am I gonna fucking do with like what I've been handed? At some point, I was like, needed to bring a sense of humor and play and curiosity to how I am and what I'm made of, do you know? Because I did for a lot of years be like, there's something wrong with me and I broke it, but like that was no fun. And also it didn't help. And so I'm like, there I am again, being that way. Oh, there's that, you know, I like, we play a lot, joke around a lot, tease a
Yeah.
lot. It is an inquiry and a curiosity. So the work that we're talking about doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
There's something else too there, which is I love the process. Like, I enjoy the process. I want to be in relationship. Like, we have conversations that are where we go more in depth. We touch on more like sensitive things on a daily basis. Like, you know, like it is weird to go a week without having what we would call an epic 3-hour conversation, where we go deep into something and there's a lot of grappling and a lot of struggling and things are revealed that are uncomfortable and all this stuff. But as she said, we both had this realization recently. It doesn't feel like work, and part of the reason it doesn't feel like work is because I actually love being in relationship. I love the process. The process is part of the juice for me, and I'm not doing it transactionally. I'm not doing something I don't want to do in order to get some result that I want.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually in this like savoring the experience. Like all of that is part of what I love about relationship. So the fact that we aren't transactional and like quote unquote doing things we need to do in order to get our needs met is we're actually in relationship with each other and doing this dance together, and so it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
If you don't have another question, I want to sort of give a couple of like tools or something, for both sides. For people who have adaptations, like I joke around with Ken a lot, like sometimes the anxiety that now, mind you, I have a lot of facility and I know myself inside of that particular like existential angst. Something's wrong, that sort of itchy, awful bone marrow. I can't stand the feeling of boredom. It's like that's typical of people who have personality. There's this sense of boredom. It's not really boredom. It's like a deep-seated bone marrow existential anxiety. When that comes up, I've joked around, I like recognize it, and there's this thing that comes up and it feels like a terrible pee under the 20 mattresses. I can't figure out what it is. What is that? I can't, it's you. I joke around flat out where I'm like, I hate that you're a separate person. Like there's something about him not being like, I can't control something. There's an anxiety. I'm like, today, I don't like that you're a separate human being. Why do you have to be a separate? Why can't you just do and be exactly how I want you to be? Why can't you be like this, like cup, and just do the things I want you to do? And mind you, nothing is going on. I just have some sort of like weird existential thing that's coming up that I suddenly want to, fold all the napkins and, the towels and stuff like that and put things in order. And he's not one of those people that I can just like fold up and put in order. So when that comes up, a thing to like look at when you might have something that comes up that's just like that sort of weird existential like discomfort where everything is wrong or it feels like there's something deeply wrong. Slow the fuck down. Slow down. What you might be thrown to do right away is to start nitpicking, seeing that there's a problem. And I'm not saying that there might not be issues, but slow down. You'll want to instinctively control your circumstances and the things outside because something inside feels so out of control. So slow down there. Go talk to someone. Maybe go see a therapist, maybe go to a meeting, maybe do some journal writing, maybe go to the gym, maybe do something that has nothing to do with the relationship. A lot of the times we go into conversations where there's something wrong to fix something, when that's actually not the thing that needs to have the focus on. Then the other thing is, when we talk to our people about a problem or about an issue, you do this, you do that. I mean, that's one way to talk about it. I don't know how effective that is all the time, but that's one way to talk about it. Maybe a different way, maybe a more usable way, maybe something that like might actually foster some conversation is to go, something is like actually put it inside of a context of this is what's coming up for me right now. I feel like there's something wrong. And I want to attack you, criticize you, nitpick, cause a problem, cause a fight. I feel like fighting today. I don't know why. But if you're around me, I might bite you if you bring your fingers a little too close to my cage today. There's like a different quality of being responsible for your feelings. And I'm not saying that there might not be something to talk about in the relationship. There might be, but there's a different way where if I talk about it that way, I'm in partnership with the person as opposed to I'm in an adversarial relationship with the person and they're doing something to me. So that's another thing. I had something else in mind, but I wanted to know if you had something that you wanted to add for people. I love the anecdotes and I love the insight into our relationship, but I actually want to give people like genuine tools of like what to do when they're inside of a challenging spot.
Yeah, for me or for a person who is in relationship with someone who has these adaptations, number one, um, to I said this before, but I know my value. I know like I have my self-esteem that isn't being sourced to, like, of course, how you feel about me does deeply affect me, but there's also a self-sourced thing that isn't contingent on you. And what that does is that gives you the freedom to be and feel whatever you are without destabilizing me. That's the first thing. So I have to self-source who I am. And then the second thing is, like, I was just thinking back, like, literally mostly what I have done was, there have been times when I had boundaries and stood by them, and then tell you what I see. Like, if there's behavior taking place, I just name the behavior that I see. Literally nothing more than that. I didn't strategize. I didn't like, oh, these are the top 10 ways to deal. No, I was just, I told you what I saw you were doing. This is what I see, and this is what it looks like you're doing. And this is where my boundary is. And and then the third thing is just to co-create. Like, our relationship is, like, at a given moment, as you evolve and as you change and as I evolve and as I change, we're willing to look at the relationship and just throw everything out and start from scratch and say, what do we want here?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's something else also, when as he tells me about my behavior, he doesn't make me, like, we don't make each other wrong.
Yeah.
Like, he
Yeah.
doesn't go, you're doing this to, like, you're doing this thing, you're leaving
Yeah.
the toothpaste cap off the tooth, you know what I mean? Hey, I'm noticing this thing, you do this funny thing. I do want to invite, if you're listening to this conversation and you have specific questions about your own relationships, or what do you do when you're inside of a particular spot that's challenging, or you want some insight into what the person that you're with, is thinking, feeling, what's the best way to manage, what's the best way to handle, from the man's perspective, woman's perspective, depending on et cetera, where they are on the adaptation map. This is a good opportunity. So go ahead and ask questions. For and for those who are listening who have adaptations, I've been there fairly recently, where I go into a spot where I'm numb and I can't feel and I don't see what the point of being in a relationship is, or like connection or love or anything like that. And I have had my own system just blown out completely. And there is no reason why I should be in a relationship that looks and feels like this. And what this looks like and feels like is deep connection and partnership and peace. Most days we laugh. Most days we just have like great conversations. That is truly like 99% of the time. It's like, there's no reason other than myself. And I just want to give the people who are struggling and who are working towards their own wholeness and cohesiveness, that it is absolutely worth it. There were so many dark nights of the soul that I just didn't understand. And I just keep going. Like, genuinely just keep going. Being in connection with others and figuring out how to do that well and gracefully, it's worth it. It's worth the effort. So that's what I want to say about that. And Ken, do you have anything that you want to say, just to?
Deep gratitude for this conversation and for this relationship.
Great, thank you. If anybody wants to, I will just plug people. If anybody wants to have a conversation about relationships, intimacy, sex, doing things differently, that's outside of the box from what you actually hear, which is like polarity or masculine, feminine, actually really being in partnership, certainly you can reach out to Ken at kenblackman.com or ken at kenblackman.com. Nat, what's a good way if people wanted to coach with you and or reach out to you?
Also, my email address, nat.thiel, THIEL, @gmail.com.
Great. And I will put that as a banner so that people can see that as well. And of course, you all know where to find me. And thank you very much for plugging in and tuning in. And the conversation will continue.